Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Knock On podcast brought to you by Zero Tackle. And Dan, I took a week off in Fiji and a lot of things happened. I've given you a lead in there with Fiji. What happened while I was away?
Well, you weren't the only one in Fiji. Look, they've made a big deal out of this. Benji Marshall, West Tigers coach, not going too well at the moment. The old Tigers, our friends from Tiger Town. NRL journos they weren't very happy with the fact that Benji took off and went on holiday. Famously said that 9 to 5 coach, he's going to go home and spend time with his kids. That's his priority. They didn't like that either. This certainly didn't help his public perception. What are your thoughts? Because I've got to say, it's a family holiday they had to buy.
Yeah, look, my first thoughts are he went over at a rubbish time because there was no sunshine. Like, it was warm while we were over there. It was really warm while we were over there. But, no sunshine. My second thing about this is it's the buy, right? It's the buy. And the players train up until Thursday on a bye, and then they get the time off, and then they come back. Fiji's 3 hours away, right? There wouldn't have been a blow up if he took his family to Perth, which is double the trip, right? I think he handled it okay, but he could have said something like, well, there's a big rugby tournament over there, and I was just going to have a look to find the next Ravalawa or the next Rudraja or the next Maikasiba or the next Viliama Kikau or the next Api Coruscant or whoever that he wanted to go and say, right? But what can they achieve? If they're sitting there saying, the coaches and they should have been bunkered down in a room figuring out what's going wrong with the Tigers. Why couldn't he do that from Fiji over, you and I are sitting in two different rooms right now in two different suburbs, chatting, rugby league. Why can't he do that after a day out with his kids? I don't get this whole perception of, whether your team's going good or your team's going bad. He's still a human. He has a wife, he has kids, and this is his time. Like, school holidays are coming up, but in the school holidays, he's got games. This is a bye weekend. He has no game. I don't see a problem with it.
Look,
the Tigers are bad. I don't see a problem with that either, but I don't see a problem with Benji going to Fiji. Absolutely none.
I'm going to blow a bit of my own gear here, because last year I accused the Newcastle Knights of not taking it seriously when a couple of their players, I think it was only Bradman Best in the end, it was up there.
He went over to get his leg tattooed.
Yeah, during the bye period, and Newcastle came good. So maybe Benji saw that and thought, let's give it a crack. He went to Bali, Fiji's further, maybe we'll go better. Ultimately, I have no problem with this. The one thing they said was, who's running the club? Because Shane Richardson was in England and Benji Marshall's in Fiji. Now, I would argue that Benji Marshall's their long-term coach, and you've got to look after this bloke. So if he's there pounding his head on the wall between 8 and 8 o'clock each day for 12 hours, he's going to burn out very quickly. Shane Richardson was in England, not for a holiday, but to try and shop their underperforming players that a previous regime, however you want to say, put together. A terrible roster that, with the greatest respects to the players who haven't been named, but we all know who they are, most NRL clubs would turn their nose up at them. They'll go to England and be very handy. We've seen a few big name players, big money players linked, and I think Richardson's over there selling that idea. So I think that's good. Okay, there's a whole board. There's CEOs, there's this, there's that. You don't need your coach and whatever Shane Richardson's position is, I don't particularly care, there during a bye week when there's other things to be done. Okay, optically, it probably doesn't look good. If the Tigers are 10-0 and Benji goes to Fiji, no one would have mentioned a thing. I think there's an agenda here by certain people in the media, and you and I have been very hard on the Tigers, and mainly because it's really funny and really easily. But they were mates with previous employees of the club without going into it. Again, everyone knows who we're talking about, and they know who these people are. they were interviewed during the week, and their photos and retweeted and stuff. This week, I think a person they don't particularly like went on holidays, and they made a big deal out of it. I think it's no problem in the world.
I love this from Benji Marshall that turned around and said, it takes us longer to drive to Canberra for a game than it took me to fly for Fiji. Absolutely nailed it. Absolutely nailed it. No issue whatsoever.
What on, Benji?
Mm.
Sticking with the Tigers, though, mate. Everyone's second favourite team.
No.
They're offering a big man, Big Stefano, Origin prop, 5-year deal, $4 million. I was quick to go on social media and say, are you kidding me? What are your thoughts?
When I first saw it, the $4 million, I thought, God, the Tigers have done something real dumb, like off a 4 over 4. I'm going to be one of the first ones to say, I don't see the hype in Stefano, like, if I'm honest. And last year, there's a podcast, you can go back and listen to it. When he got named for New South Wales, I laughed. Right? I don't see it. But he's young. Okay? And what they're obviously doing right now is he's got this ridiculous clause in his contract that says that if he doesn't play a game of Origin this year and the Tigers don't make if he doesn't play 2 games of Origin this year and the Tigers don't make the finals, that he's a free agent. And Penrith have got a lot of money and Penrith need a prop. Now, this kid, if he goes into the Penrith system, he's going to be Hercules in 6 games, right? No two ways about it. Right now at Penrith, right now at the Tigers, I don't... Like, there's hype there and there's venom there and he has a big run and he's scary. Okay. But I don't get the hype in it. And if on the flip side of this, Cronulla were interested in Stefano Utoikamanu and they had to offer him $850K a year for 5 years, like, I'm literally ringing anyone I can at the club to turn around and go, do not make that offer. It's not worth it. So at the moment, I don't think it's worth it. But I think the Tigers have to make a play like this to keep him. Otherwise, they're going to end up with someone like Blake Laurie.
Situationally, this is something they have to do. These rebuilds, and this is their 7th or 8th rebuild, this is the first time I've thought, okay, there's a serious rebuild here because they're bringing in a pretty handy 5'8" and Jerome Luai next year. I think Benji's going the right way about it. I think Richardson's going the right way about it, trying to shop players to England and clear out the decks. The money's way too much. This is a kid who averages 115 metres a game and they're giving him the farm. $800K for 5 years. 5-year deals have never... Name one 5-year deal that's ever worked. You'd probably say Cherry Evans, but that was a backflip that they needed to do to get him out of a contract that was equally ridiculous. He's the exception to the rule. It's Daly Cherry Evans. The West Tigers putting $800K into a player who has potential, but is not busting doors down and is probably not in the top 15 props in the competition right now, is laughable. They should be looking at... Well, they need... I don't want to go into it. They need everything, right? They've got a 5'8" next year. I believe they've got a number 1. I love their number 9. Their 6, Galvin looks a real talent, or if he moves into lock, they've got some other options. I like what they're building. But to commit to a bloke who's had a couple of good games, it just reeks the West Tigers. But I get it. They have to make a big move to say, hey, look, he's an Origin prop. Rightly or wrongly, he's an Origin prop. They can't be letting Origin props walk down the road to Penrith because the optics over 100K a year. They just have to sign him and hope it works out. I hope for their sake it does. And I'm not huge on this kid, but if he turned up at Cronulla for 400K, I'm doing a backflip. If it's 600, 800, no chance. He's not worth that. I get why they're doing it. I just think it's such a West Tigers move. They've made so many good decisions. I mean, they let Papali'i go, who is a fantastic player, but he doesn't want to be there. And I think the culture's got to come over individual players. This guy, unless they make him captain and say, hey, look, you are the future of this club, okay, it's a worthy investment, but you can't be paying a bloke who plays 800K. He plays 52 minutes a game and averages 115 metres. Cronulla are giving $1 million to a bloke who plays 65 minutes and averages like 180 metres. Breaks 15 tackles to Utoikamanu's 2 or 3. It's a world of difference. I just think they're overpaying. But again, I get it.
Well, that. I was literally just about to say this. You took the words right out of my mouth. He averages 115 meters and tackles at 95%. David Clemmer averages 113 meters and tackles at 97%. They're very. You can go in on a run by run basis that Alex Twal does the same thing. I'm yet to see it in Stefano, and I've got no doubt that maybe by the time that he's 26 that he's going to be a very good prop, but he's not one that's come through that you've turned around and like Payne Haas when he burst onto the scene. You looked at that and you're like, within 2 years he's going to play Origin. Within 3 he's going to be the best prop in the competition. James Fisher-Harris, the same thing when he was playing lock for Penrith in 2016. People were saying the minute he moves into the front row, he's going to be an absolute beast. Tino, Tarpanay, these guys, they're a cut above. I don't see it. I think it's a move the Tigers have to make, but I think it'll be one in like 2 or 3 seasons where we'll be going. Well, I didn't see him getting released to go to the Titans.
Look, it's not signed yet. Stefano may say, "Hey, look, I'm going to Penrith regardless of what they owe me, what they offer." Because I can't see the Tigers play fine football, but that's okay. I hope it works out for them because they need a win. Let's be honest. Well, let's talk the big news, Terry. State of Origin. It's tonight. By the time this drops, it is Wednesday. It is Game 1. Now, rather than doing a game preview, you dirty Queenslander, we're going to do a series preview. I'm going to start by saying this is must win for New South Wales because if they lose this game, the series is over.
Look, you and I discussed this on Outlaws, that I think home ground advantage pays a big one into this, and I know people are turning around saying this is a great Queensland team, blah, 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 but injuries have decimated both sides at the moment. I think it's a very even game, and I think that the crowd is going to play a big part in this as well. I tipped New South Wales for Game 1. I see the Blues getting up, and I almost see it as a false sense of security in some way that they will get complacent and pick the same players again, and Queensland will make minor adjustments and take Game 2 and Game 3. But yeah, look, it's going to be interesting. Every year I find myself trying to G myself up for State of Origin, and every year I just, more and more, I just couldn't care less about it, Dan. It's just another Wednesday to me with a game of football at the end of the night.
Until 8 o'clock tonight, I don't care. From 8 till 10:05, it's all I care about, and then at 8:10 I don't care again. It is a novelty for mine, and I get that a lot of people... I got mates at work that rate Origin above club football. I don't get that, but it is what it is. The rivalry is real, etc., blah, blah, blah. I get it. Origin keeps a lot of the NRL alive. The money, etc. I want to see it move to the end of the season. But, again, we've discussed that ad nauseum. I think the last few years has been so close that the difference has been coaching, in that Billy Slater's good at it and Brad Fittler is not good at it. I'm on record as saying I think Brad Fittler probably should never coach again based on what he did. We've seen things come out since, before, during, but mainly since, the absurdity of it all. I think he picked a team to be clever. I think Maguire's picked a team with a plan. Obviously, it's not the best side available because obviously Nathan Cleary's the best halfback in the game. There's other players unavailable. Queensland are missing players too, so let's not bring too much into that. Madge Maguire is a coach who expects nothing but the best and will accept nothing but the best. He tried that at the Tigers and they resold him because he trained him too hard. It's not going to be a problem this time around for the Blues. I think New South Wales lost last year on the fact that Brad Fittler was a weight that dragged them down and Billy Slater just let them be them. I think if Maguire can go and equal what Slater does, I think New South Wales can win. I don't think they will. I'm just worried about Nicho Hynes. Now, I know he's a hero in the Shire and I love the bloke to death. I'm just worried about him versus Cherry Evans in the big moment because Cherry Evans does it for laughs and Nicho Hynes has built a reputation of being unable to do it. So I worry a little bit there. On paper, this is probably the closest Origin game I can remember in a long time because there's years ago when you look at that Queensland side, it wasn't fair. Before that, New South Wales team was just too good. Even last year, I thought the Queensland side was much, much better because when I saw the coaches, I thought, well, one can, one can't. And it sounds like a pile-on, and it absolutely is. This time, 1-17. I got Queenslanders a little bit better because they've got a lot of runs on the board, whereas New South Wales don't. But it would not shock me if this is one of these classic 22-20 games. I just have a terrible, terrible feeling that whoever loses is going to blame Ashley Klein, because Ashley Klein will cost them the game. There's so little between it that I think it's going to be a bounce of the ball, and I hope it's that, and the players decide, or a refereeing out.
The one good thing about Ashley Klein in a big game is he forgets that he has a whistle. So the less we see of Ashley, the better. Yeah, the less we see of Ashley, the better.
So who's your pick overall series, mate? Right now?
Queensland.
Terrible. I'll go New South Wales 2-1 because you got to do that. But I am looking forward to this a little bit. But I'm looking forward to Origin being over. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. I gave the rundown on Outlaws on how the competition needs to shut down for 2 weeks to play the 3 games on the Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday. Make it happen.
Now, something that you wanted to bring up tonight, and I don't usually allow you to do this, Terry, because I like to make this my show. Mm-hmm. Jared Weir-Hargraves. What's he got to do to be suspended?
Well, it's clearly not shoulder someone in the face, because when it happened in the game, and you see Thomas Michaele, like, he didn't come back. Michaele didn't come back, and I know that Michaele didn't come back because he was in my Supercoach team that didn't score any points on the weekend. But I looked at that and I thought, Jesus, that's surely that's a penalty. Surely something's going to happen. Surely the bunker's going to get involved and tip Ashley Klein off, because what it reminded me of, how it got missed, it reminded me of when we played the Bulldogs back in round 2 and Britton Nickera hit Viliama Kikau in the face, and then we got the ball, and then all of a sudden it was a penalty to the Dogs. And I took one look at the replay and I thought, Hargraves is in trouble here and the Cowboys are going to get the ball back. And all Ashley Klein did was put him on report. Now that was direct, forceful contact to the head. They are grounds for a send-off. Right? They are absolute grounds for a send-off. And yet he gets put on report. The Cowboys lose Michaele for the rest of the game. I don't think he's been named this weekend either because it was a Category 1. And Weir-Hargraves is given a $3,000 fine. Now, I'm an unabashed Jared Weir-Hargraves fan. I love the way that he plays football, and I'm probably one of the biggest people who defends the bumpers because he's 6'5", and that's where his arms go. You have to defend yourself when you run the ball, otherwise even a bloke like him is going to get smashed. But that was awful. Like, that was absolutely awful, to a point where I was on my couch and I was like, he has to go for that shot. Regardless of whether they don't give him the penalty, they can stop that at the scrum and turn around and go, hey, it was direct, it was forceful, you're gone. How it didn't happen, man. Like, how he escaped a send-off, a sin bin, and a suspension is absolutely mind-blowing when you see some players getting sin binned and sent off and suspended for some of the softest things you'll ever see on a rugby league field.
I wrote in my 20 thoughts, my famous or infamous 20 thoughts, that Weir-Hargraves is probably owed a few, and he definitely cashed in a chip this week because I thought he was getting suspended. I thought a penalty and a sin bin was coming. I thought at least a penalty. When he went on report, I was like, oh, he's copping 2 weeks. You know, Weir-Hargraves with his prize, he's probably copping 22 weeks. It just, I know why fans are getting frustrated, myself included, because you'll see something this week where a guy love tap on the chin and he'll be sin binned. Mm-hmm. Yet Weir-Hargraves is, clobbering people and escaping with a $3,000 fine. It just...
Jared Weir-Hargraves has been charged or cited 7 times in the last 2 and a bit seasons and has not been suspended. And people's first reactions are, oh, imagine if Jared Weir-Hargraves done that. Imagine how many weeks he would get. The answer's 0.
Yeah, I think we
He
got. I
will
think we
get
got a
0
percent.
weeks.
Well, I think the Roosters are very, very lucky there, and I think they're lucky to have their enforcer. Not this weekend with the bye, but available after. But in a bit more positive news, the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles, our friends over the other, well, two bridges actually, so you're getting way away. Jason Saab's re-signed. The NRL said superstar winger is signed. I don't know if I totally agree with that. I think they had to re-sign him. When he's on, he's fantastic.
I like Jason Saab. I think Jason Saab though is like one of the biggest characters in the game because he was a Dragons kid, lived at Blacktown, trained at Cogra, and said that Cogra was too far to go, and he he went to Manly, which is worse. Like, that was just an easy case of the Dragons are crap. I want to go and play with Turbo and DCE and actually have a chance of playing a finals game. Since going to Manly, he has gone from being this like long gangly kid with a little bit of potential to a match winner, and he is because you can kick the ball to him, and he's big, he's fast, he can jump, and he can catch a ball, right? And we saw in the year of the PVL ball that he scored like 25 tries or whatever, and Tommy scored 20 and Garrick scored 20. And he's just super quick. There's things like they always say in basketball, you can't teach height. In rugby league, you can't teach pace. And he has got it. And as he's matured, as he's gotten a little bit older and matured, I think you're just seeing these, like the little bit of finesse coming into his game now as well. Is he an elite level winger? No, but at the end of every year, you turn around, you look up his stats, and you're like, well, he scored a lot of tries. Yeah, it's what a good, fast, tall winger does.
A lot of people when they judge players look at Supercoach scores, and Jason Saab's the kind of bloke who can score 6 or 106, depending on line breaks, tries, etc. And that's obviously the same for all of them, but he's one or the other. He's a highlight reel winger. He reminds me a lot of Dom Young. Now, I am a big fan of Dom Young, but he's not a Brian Toto style winger. He's not going to hit the ball up 30 times. He's not going to smash tackles. He's the bloke who's going to fly over and he's going to score you a try. Or he's going to make a half break that turns into a full break because his stride is the side of 3 of normal-sized human beings. I say that tongue-in-cheek. He's a giant of a human. He's quick and he's so good at scoring tries. If you say, hey, Terry, our wing is tall, quick, and he can score tries, you're 3/4 of the way to an elite winger. Now, I 100% agree. I don't think he's in the top echelon of wingers. But this isn't a bloke who's costing Manly $1 million either. They're very, very top-heavy. They've got 4 players that are very, very highly paid, and Josh Schuster was 5, and I know they've moved a lot of that off the books. But for this year, for argument's sake, it's 5 players. Very top-heavy. I can't imagine Ruben Garrick is cheap either. He's a fantastic player. These are the kind of players they need. He's been there and he's done that. I love the re-signing. Obviously, I wish Manly nothing but the worst as a Sharks fan. But in terms of the signing, I think they've absolutely nailed it bang on.
Yeah. And Jason Saab has played 69 games for Manly and scored 49 tries, and that is a very, very elite return. And that's all you can ask for in your winger.
It's funny how many Manly players, you look at their Brookvale stats and they're just top class, and then away from home they're okay. Fortress Brookvale. Not everyone can win there, Terry. Just the Sharks. Speaking of winning, though, the Bulldogs. How good are they?
Look, I said it again on Rugby League Outlaws. Please do go and check that out as well. But I think that, I picked the Dogs for the bottom 4 this year. And next year was the year that I thought that they were going to come good. But man, they are a fun team. It's good. You watch Penrith play, and you just expect Penrith to win. You watch Melbourne play, and you just expect Melbourne to be Melbourne. You watch the Roosters play, and you're like, okay, cool. Anywhere between 26 and 40 points are being scored by them this week. What I get a lot of joy out of, and it's still one of my most favourite seasons, even though we missed the finals, was the 2021 Sharks team, because they weren't good, but they were fun to watch. right? And so this Dogs team, they're fun. Like they're just a lot of fun, and they're just getting a lot of like players playing really good footy. Like Jacob Kiraz can legitimately tomorrow night watch that Origin game and went, I'm so unlucky not to be out there. I really am. And Jacob Preston can watch that game and go, next year I'm a legitimate chance to be on that bench. And, there's so, and Josh Adokar has been there and done that before, so they're like, they're just fun. And what's even, what's even more fun about them is Reed Marnie. Like, Reed Marnie is everything about the Bulldogs at the moment. Like, he's a pest, he's annoying, and that's what the Dogs are. They're in and out of the top 8 at the moment. They're going to upset you. They're going to, whether they're fighting for a top 8 spot at the end of the year or they know they're not going to make the top 8, but they're just going to upset some team and cost them a top 4, or, they're going to go and beat, I don't know, the Warriors and cost them a top 8 spot. Like, they're fun, but their defence is back. And I think they've got the second best defensive record in the competition, if I'm not mistaken. They do. And they've scored a lot of points as well. So they're the only team undefeated at home.
Mm-hmm. Taking all my points, but sure.
They're just fun at the moment.
They are. Now, before you stole literally everything I was going to say, they got one of the most likeable rosters in the competition.
Do they?
Just wait. You take Reed Marnie out of the situation. I think Bronson Xerri is one of my favourite players. Now, he did what he did. He walked out on the Sharks. I love the way this guy plays football. He's a speed freak. He's at 110 miles an hour. He does nothing in slow motion. I just love it. Kiraz is one of my favourite players to watch. I love this bloke. 100%. If they dropped him into Origin 2, no one's complaining. Jacob Preston is going to be the most likeable player in the game in 2 years' time.
Unless he gets a haircut.
Yeah, please. If you're watching Jacob, we know you're a big fan of the show, leave the mullet. Did you hear what he said in the after game? He said that one of his dad's mates said, I bet you can't grow a mullet like your son, and he grew it. And I just love that sort of stuff. It's inconsequential. It doesn't matter to anyone. It's just fun. Like you said, This is a fun team at the moment. They recruited okay in the off-season. They added a lot of players. Phil Gould said they just play football. They just know how to play. Andrew Johns, rather, said they just play football. They just go out there and they put in. They took a... look, I'm loath to talk positively about Newcastle, but a more talented Newcastle side apart the other night. Now, player for player, I think the Bulldogs have got a better squad, but the players that were there, you'd probably take a majority of the Newcastle players on what they've done. I love the Bulldogs' potential way more. They just outplayed them. They never looked like conceding a try. Newcastle took points in the wet, and it's like, oh, maybe it'll be low scoring, and then the Bulldogs are like, yeah, for you, and they just ran right.
Rumour has it that the Knights are still playing, and they still haven't scored a try.
They still couldn't with those halves, but anyways, again, 6-0 at home is ridiculous. I know Penrith have had context matters, but Penrith have lost
5-0, and they won their away game.
Oh, well, there you go. So they're fine. Now, they hadn't won away to this week, so that's going to change a lot in their favour. I just love it. Cam Serrato's finally delivering. I love Matt Burton. I think they've finally found his role in the team, and that's not to play halfback and 5'8". Who would have known? I think, though, that the big changes come as soon as Toby Sexton came in. They started playing real good football. I don't want to tell Serrato how do we do his job, but I think he's got to stay there just quietly. Like you said, they're just fun. And Reed Marnie, mate. Pete, you either love him or you hate him, and I love him.
Yeah, look, it was. I think it was a really, really nice touch on. It was a really, really, really nice touch from Phil Gould on Twitter this week when someone said to him, "Hey, you've recruited really well. Who would have known? And you're getting the best out of the players." And he quote tweeted it and said, "Cam Serrata is doing a fantastic job." And I think you can always say that about Phil Gould. He pops the praise at the right time when he needs to. Look, the the recruitment that the Bulldogs did made absolutely no sense to anybody when they went out and signed Drew Hutchison and Kurt Mann and Connor Tracy and blah blah blah. But they found a spot for every single person, or like every single one of them.
Salmon.
Yeah, Salmon as well. He's another one. But when they went out and got their star players, apart from having a superstar halfback, but I think they're just banking on Matt Burton being that individual brilliance. But the Dogs, man, they're so much fun. It's like, I actually look forward to watching their games, and you can't say that from the last couple of years, but I'm actually looking forward to watching Bulldogs games again.
What a turnaround. One place, though, that is just the same year after year. Had a good week this week, though, and that's Parramatta Eels. They've released, or it's been released, that they're looking at a certain number of coaches. A bit of a nerdy moment, Terry. We don't get to do this often, but a couple of weeks ago I suggested a whole heap of coaches, and all of them except John Morris made the cut, which is pretty good, not bad. Names Michael Checker is probably the big shock. Rugby union coach has done an okay job with the Wallabies a few years ago. I'm not a big fan of that code, so I couldn't tell you too much about it. But it's a high intensity and it's a high pressure spot. Jason Riles was the one. Evidently, this is the list that they're going to interview. So for Jason Riles to turn around and not say no, thank you, I think that's very encouraging, and I think he's the obvious front runner. Josh Hannay was a name that I was surprised to see. I thought he did okay with Cronulla when he was thrust into a very difficult situation, but there was also Trent Barrett and Michael Maguire, and I think Maguire should be really recommended. I think Trent Barrett's there to be nice, but the other four, I like where they're going. I think you can put Hannay to the side, so I don't think he's experienced enough. I think Trent Barrett will get the thank you for all you've done, but no thank you. Those other three, though, I don't think you can really go wrong there.
Well, I can't see how you're going to brush Josh Hannay aside and say you're not experienced enough, but then turn around and go Jason Riles is one of the coaches on the way to go, who's literally coached 0 games.
Yeah, but they need to get him in because I think he's the next Serrato and Fitzgibbon.
Yeah, but that's, they were saying about Stephen Carney as well. They were saying that about Garth Brennan. They've said that about a lot of assistant coaches, and they don't always work out. Garth Brennan was a 2-time New South Wales Cup Coach of the Year and took the wrong job up at the Titans. I get that. Andrew Johns has come out and publicly said that Parramatta will be doing the wrong thing by not interviewing Brad Fittler. No. Parramatta are doing the right thing by not interviewing Brad Fittler. But if you do want to interview him, please hire him. Looking at that list now, I think... again, looking at it, I think the most exciting one would be to go and get Michael Checker and just see what he can do in this code, right? Yep. Like, you haven't won a premiership for 32 years. Sign him to a 2-year deal and see what he can do, and see if he can entice Jason Riles to come on as an assistant coach. Or I think the plunge they're going to make is going all in on Jason Riles. Mm-hmm. But it was like the Walker brothers a couple of years ago when they were just playing the ad-lib football and you just wanted to see one club take a punt. What's the worst that could happen? What is the absolute worst that could happen if you went and got Michael Checker and it didn't work for 2 years? The same thing that's happened for the 37, 31, 30, whatever drought you're in at the moment.
50 plus years. Yeah, I agree. Look, if it was me, I'd be saying, Madge, here's your contract sign. He's got a premiership, and this is a team that can go deep into the finals. A couple of weeks ago, everyone was writing Parramatta off and saying that they sucked, and I jumped into that a little bit. I felt a bit guilty. It's no shock to anyone in the world that they look a completely different team when they get their superstar Origin-winning halfback back. And I cannot believe that they sacked Michael Maguire and said, you can't do it. And Moses comes back and they flog the Sharks and everyone's talking up Trent Barrett like he had anything to do with anything. Now, I know they did change a hopeless hooker out for a decent one and they brought Wiramu Greg back. So Barrett's made some right decisions on paper. But you give any coach in the world 2 rep quality halves, Blaze Talangi, who I think is their long-term fullback, 3 Origin players in the middle rotation, 2 fringe Origin players on the wide, and Zach Lomax incoming. Anyone who doesn't make the top 6 or top 4 with this team is no good at coaching. I'd be giving it to Maguire and say, win us a premiership, but I don't see any outcome other than Jason Riles saying thanks, but that they don't go with Jason Riles.
Yeah, if Jason Riles comes out from the interview and they offer him the job and he says yes, or he leaves the job interview and says, hey, I absolutely want it, I think they'll do that. But, man. Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Knock On Podcast, brought to you by Zero Tackle, the one-stop shop, the best one-stop shop on the internet for all things rugby league. It's got news, transfers, up-to-date contracts. It's got some of the best independent writers, and we are blessed to be joined by one of them at the moment. Dan, what have we got coming this week? We've got Big Origin. I know there's going to be pre-game. There's going to be during the game, post-game. What have you got? What's happening?
Well, thank you for saying something nice about me. You caught me a little bit off guard.
I say it every week.
Well, that's debatable. We have a Origin preview to end all Origin previews. We've all made our predictions. I've gone with my head over my heart, which is always the wrong thing to do at this time of year. There'll be Origin reactions coming out the wazoo. The Rugby League fan in me wants New South Wales to win. The New South Wales fan in me wants New South Wales to win. The writer in me, though, wants Queensland to absolutely chicane New South Wales. So I can react, as I did last year, and go absolutely ballistic with bile and hatred, because it rates really well. Everyone loves negativity. I'm going to keep my cards close to my chest, hey? But I'm working on a few things that I think you might be interested in, maybe even click this time. So stay tuned. I'll give you a bit of that. But Scott's promised me a bit of leeway this week, which is always dangerous. But I'm excited. And I'm excited about Origin football. Not really.